Make America Great Again. With that slogan at your masthead, Donald, you rode roughshod over all of the other contenders for the nomination and then narrowly defeated one of the best qualified candidates ever to run for president. Many who supported you may have assumed you would grow into the role of president, but you made it very clear you will never be anything else but Donald. Americans and those of us in the rest of the world might be able to endure your particular idiosyncrasies and your erratic behaviour for however long you're there, but what cannot be tolerated is the damage you're doing. The idea that you are the man to make America great again is preposterous, as laughable as the notion of giving the Nobel Peace Prize to Adolf Hitler. It's economic might that makes nations great, Donald. That's what puts armies in the field, navies on the water and air forces in the sky and promotes a great nation's cultural influence around the world. The second greatest idiot who ever lived would have no trouble understanding that when a great nation's national debt is over 100% of GDP and growing faster than the economy, its economic might is ebbing away. You're very concerned about the USA's huge trade deficit, but not apparently about the huge budget deficit or the growth of the national debt. What you're too boneheaded to understand is that a national debt growing faster than the economy and a reducing trade deficit are mutually exclusive. Huge annual budget deficits put pressure on interest rates which rise, encouraging inflow of foreign capital, seeking the best return, which drives up the dollar, making foreign imports cheaper and US exports more expensive in foreign currencies, worsening the trade deficit. If ordinary Americans want to know why their living standards have been declining over most of the past 40 years, it is because as the national debt and the trade deficit have grown ever larger, an ever-increasing proportion of the wealth generated by the US economy each year has been expended servicing the national debt and the accumulated trade deficit. I put to you this question, Donald. Why would you think you could implement the same economic policies, only more so, as those which resulted in George W. turning a booming economy into a collapsing economy in just 7 years and get a different result this time? So, Donald, a buffoon like you was a good choice for voters wishing to register their disgust at the whole process, but a terrible choice if they also wish to choose someone who would reverse the decline and bring improvement in their lives. I want to see the leading nation remain one which projects its military and economic might and its cultural influence around the world in a manner that promotes, as Max said, niceness instead of menace, meanness and nastiness. So, Donald, I cannot just do nothing when there's a lot I can do about this. I'm going to do you, Donald, but good. I'd love to be able to do you quickly, because Americans and foreigners alike should have to put up with you, your particular idiosyncrasies and the damage you are doing for as brief a time as possible. But as presidential politics in an election year is a long drawn out process, I'll just have to take what I can get and be content with being able to do you slowly. I intend nothing less than to cause a seismic shift in American politics, and I'll do this by taking the American people by the scruff of the neck and rubbing their noses in what the consequences of re-electing you will be, figuratively speaking. Sorry to put it in those terms, but this is really serious. I have in hand everything I need to do just that. But I'm not such a hard man, Donald, that I wouldn't throw you a lifeline if I knew of one, and I do, and I will, and I quote, I shall not seek and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president. Lyndon B. Johnson, March 31st, 1968. You could make exactly the same statement, Donald, and when the time came, you could exit with as much dignity as would be feasible for an individual like you. Having not suffered an ignominious defeat, you would have done the greatest thing you possibly could for your country, other than not running for the presidency in the first place. Donald, take the lifeline. If you do not, if you persist with your campaign for re-election, then I'm going to nail your dick to the wall. Figuratively speaking. What I mean is that, whereas up to now, you and everyone else have been assuming that you will cruise to a lopsided victory on November 3rd, resulting in the American people being hostage to the circus of your erratic behaviour and the damage you're doing for another 4 years, I'm going to turn the tables completely on you. You instead will be hostage to a re-election campaign headed for a train wreck. There will be lots of red faces in Conservative and Republican circles, and in Moscow too. but everyone else will be laughing their heads off as the still photos of you in the media in full flight at your bombastic worst give way quickly to photos of you ashen-faced as you see your support dwindling by the day and knowing it's because you've been done like a dinner. Everyone has got thoroughly used to your personal attacks on everyone you have issues with and many others you don't, and you're dodging and weaving, but from now on they'll get great enjoyment as they see you squirm. You're going to do an awful lot of squirming, Donald, mark my words. So, Donald, my intent is that if you don't take the lifeline, you will endure 9 months of misery and ridicule as you see your support collapse, leading up to a historic defeat on the scale of Herbert Hoover in 1932. If you do persist, we'll see which one of us prevails, you with your hopes of re-election fulfilled, or me in my intent to see your useless arse booted back to Trump Tower where it belongs so you can resume your shonky business career. Donald, you're hugely vulnerable because of the damage you're doing. You're not making America great again, you're diminishing it and will cause the further collapse of living standards for most Americans. The US presidency is no one's plaything. World leadership is a serious business. You're not fit to be there, Donald. As Nancy said, you're in way over your head. Make America great again. I'm going to make you very sorry you ever used such a fraudulent slogan in your campaign. Take the lifeline, Donald, or you'll be laughed out of office on November 3rd. My thanks go to Paul Keating, Australia's Prime Minister from 1991 to 96, for providing the template for this presentation. If you would like to see it, key into the YouTube search field, Paul Keating, I want to do you slowly. Thank you.